Good morning, sweet friends. Happy November 3rd. Happy Monday. Hope you already maybe got some exercise in this morning. Anybody? I just got home from my walk and I'm getting ready to go to the gym in a few minutes. As soon as we're done devotions, I'm back to drinking coffee in the morning. All is right with the world. And this morning's cup includes nut pods, which traditionally or typically I do not like. However, can you guys hold on a second? Okay, sorry. I thought somebody was here aerating our lawn that wasn't supposed to be here this early. So, thank you, girls. I love my tree too. I don't typically like nut pods, but if I use a splash of my creamer that I do love, the Chobani zero sugar, just sweet cream, and then a glug, because it's pretty lean, of peppermint mocha nut pods, Christmas is complete. I am ready for it. Bring it. Bring it. I don't like nut pods very much, Meredith. I don't care for them. But if I use like a teaspoon of my Chobani creamer with it, then I can tolerate it. And the only reason I want the nut pods is because it's peppermint mocha. And that, I don't love a lot of different flavors of coffee. Some of them I do. But peppermint mocha, it's dreamy. I love it. And I don't drink it all year. I wait for Christmas. And it's officially Christmas right now. All right, November 3rd. Jesus' trial before Pilate. Mark 15, 2 through 5. Pilate asked Jesus, "Are you the king of the Jews?" Jesus replied, "You have said it." Then the leading priests kept accusing him of many crimes. And Pilate asked him, "Aren't you going to answer these? What about all these charges they are bringing against you?" But Jesus said nothing, much to Pilate's surprise. Matthew 27, 11 through 14. Now Jesus was standing before Pilate, the Roman governor. "Are you king of the Jews?" the governor asked him. Jesus replied, "You have said it." But when the leading priests and elders made their accusations against him, Jesus remained silent. "Don't you hear all these charges they are bringing against you?" Pilate demanded. But Jesus made no response to any of the charges, much to the governor's surprise. Luke 23, 1 through 12. Then the entire council took Jesus to Pilate, the Roman governor. They began to state their case. "This man has been leading our people astray by telling them not to pay their taxes to the Roman government and by claiming he is Messiah, a king. He is the Messiah, a king." So Pilate asked him, "Are you the king of the Jews?" Jesus replied, "You have said it." Pilate turned to the leading priests and to the crowd and said, "I find nothing wrong with this man." Then they became insistent. "But he is causing riots by his teaching wherever he goes, all over Judea and from Galilee to Jerusalem." "Oh, is he Galilean?" Pilate asked. When they said that he was, Pilate sent him to Herod Antipas, because Galilee was under Herod's jurisdiction, and Herod happened to be in Jerusalem at the time. Herod was delighted at the opportunity to see Jesus because he had heard about him and had been hoping for a long time to see him perform a miracle. He asked Jesus question after question, but Jesus refused to answer. Meanwhile, the leading priests and teachers of religious law stood there shouting their accusations. Then Herod and his soldiers began mocking and ridiculing Jesus. Finally, they put a royal robe on him and sent him back to Pilate. Herod and Pilate, who had been enemies before, became friends that day. John 18, 28 through 40. Jesus' trial before Caiaphas ended in the early hours of the morning. Then he was taken to the headquarters of the Roman governor. His accusers didn't go inside because it would defile them, and they wouldn't be allowed to celebrate the Passover. So Pilate, the governor, went out and asked them, "What is your charge against this man?" We wouldn't have handed him over to you if he weren't a criminal," they retorted. "Then take him away and judge him by your own law," Pilate told them. "Only the Romans are permitted to execute someone," the Jewish leaders replied. This fulfilled Jesus' prediction about the way he would die. Then Pilate went back into his headquarters and called for Jesus to be brought to him. "Are you the king of the Jews?" he asked. Sorry. Jesus replied, "Is this your own question, or did others tell you about me?" Am I a Jew? Pilate retorted. You have your own people and their leading priests brought your own people and their leading priests brought you to me for a trial. Why? What have you done? Jesus answered, my kingdom is not an earthly kingdom. If it were, my followers would fight to keep me from being handed over to the Jewish leaders. But my kingdom is not of this world. Pilate said, so are you a king? Jesus responded, you say I am a king. Actually, I was born and came into the world to testify to the truth. All who love the truth recognize what I say is true. What is truth? Pilate asked. Then he went out again to the people and told them, he is not guilty of any crime, but you have a custom of asking me to release one prisoner each year at Passover. Would you like me to release this king of the Jews? But they shouted back, no, not this man. We want Barabbas. Barabbas was a revolutionary. Jesus sentenced to death, Mark 15, 6-15. Now it was the governor's custom each year during the Passover celebration to release one prisoner, anyone the people requested. One of the prisoners at that time was Barabbas, a revolutionary who had committed murder in an uprising. The crowd went to Pilate and asked to release a prisoner as usual. Would you like me to release to you this king of the Jews? Pilate asked, for he realized by now that the leading priests had arrested Jesus out of envy. But at this point, the leading priests stirred up the crowds to demand the release of Barabbas instead of Jesus. Pilate asked them, then what should I do with this man you call the king of the Jews? They shouted back, crucify him. Why? Pilate demanded. What crime has he committed? But the mob roared even louder, crucify him. So to pacify the crowd, Pilate released Barabbas to them. He ordered Jesus flogged with a lead-tipped whip, then turned over to the Roman soldiers to be crucified. Matthew 27, 15-26. Now it was the governor's custom each year during the Passover to release one prisoner to the crowd, anyone they wanted. This year there was a notorious prisoner named Barabbas. As the crowds gathered before Pilate's house that morning, he asked them, which one do you want me to release to you, Barabbas or Jesus, who is called the Messiah? He knew very well that the religious leaders had arrested Jesus out of envy. Just then, Pilate was sitting on the judgment seat. His wife sent this message, leave the innocent man alone. I suffered through a terrible nightmare about him last night. Meanwhile, the leading priests and the elders persuaded the crowd to ask for Barabbas to be released and for Jesus to be put to death. So the governor asked again, which of these two do you want me to release to you? The crowd shouted back, Barabbas. Pilate responded, then what should I do with Jesus, who is called the Messiah? They shouted back, crucify him. Why? Pilate demanded, what crime has he committed? But the mob roared even louder, crucify him. Pilate saw that this wasn't getting anywhere and that a riot was developing, so he sent for a bowl of water and washed his hands before the crowd, saying, I am innocent of this man's blood. The responsibility is yours. And the people yelled back, we will take responsibility for his death, we and our children. So Pilate released Barabbas to them. He ordered Jesus flogged with a lead-tipped whip, then turned him over to the Roman soldiers to be crucified. Luke 23, 13-25. Then Pilate called together the leading priests and the other religious leaders, along with the people, and he announced his verdict. You brought this man to me, accusing him of leading a revolt. I have examined him thoroughly on his point in your presence and find him innocent. Herod came to the same conclusion and sent him back to us. Nothing this man has done calls for the death penalty, so I will have him flogged, and then I will release him. Then a mighty roar rose from the crowd with one voice they shouted, kill him and release Barabbas to us. Barabbas was in prison for taking part in an insurrection in Jerusalem against the government and for murder. Pilate argued with them because he wanted to release Jesus, but they kept shouting, crucify him, crucify him. For the third time he demanded, why? What crime has he committed? I have found no reason to sentence him to death, so I will have him flogged and then release him. But the mob shouted louder and louder, demanding that Jesus be crucified, and their voices prevailed. So Pilate sent Jesus to die, as they demanded. As they had requested, he released Barabbas, the man in prison for an insurrection and murder. But he turned Jesus over to them to do as they wished. John 19, 1-16. Then Pilate had Jesus flogged with a lead-tipped whip. The soldiers wove a crown of thorns and put it on his head, and they put a purple robe on him. Hail, King of the Jews, they mocked as they slapped him across the face. Pilate went out again and said to the people, I am going to bring him out to you now, but understand clearly that I find him not guilty. Then Jesus came out wearing a crown of thorns and a purple robe, and Pilate said, look, here is the man. When they saw him, the leading priests and temple guards began shouting, "Crucify him! Crucify him!" "Take him yourselves and crucify him," Pilate said. "I find him not guilty." The Jewish leaders replied, "By our law he ought to die because he called himself the Son of God." When Pilate heard this, he was more frightened than ever. He took Jesus back into the headquarters and asked him, "Where are you from?" But Jesus gave no answer. "Why don't you talk to me?" Pilate demanded. "Don't you realize I have the power to release you or crucify you?" Then Jesus said, "You would have no power over me at all unless it were given to you from above. So the one who handed me over to you has the greater sin." Then Pilate tried to release him, but the Jewish leaders shouted, "If you release this man, you are no friend of Caesar. Anyone who declared himself a king is a rebel against Caesar." When they said this, Pilate brought Jesus back out to them. Then Pilate sat down on the judgment seat on the platform that is called the stone pavement, in Hebrew, Gabbatha. It was now about noon on the day of preparation for the Passover, and Pilate said to the people, "Look, here is your king." "Away with him," they yelled. "Away with him! Crucify him!" "What? Crucify your king?" Pilate asked. "We have no king but Caesar," the leading priest shouted back. Then Pilate turned Jesus over to them to be crucified. So they took Jesus away. The soldiers mocked Jesus. Mark 15:16-20. The soldiers took Jesus into the courtyard of the governor's headquarters, called the Praetorium, and called the entire regiment. They dressed him in a purple robe, and they wove thorn branches into a crown and put it on his head. Then they saluted him and taunted, "Hail, King of the Jews!" They struck him on the head with a reed stick, spit on him, and dropped to their knees in mock worship. When they were finally tired of mocking him, they took off the purple robe and put his own clothes on him again. Then they led him away to be crucified. Matthew 27:27-31. Some of the governor's soldiers took Jesus into their headquarters and called out the entire regiment. They stripped him and put a scarlet robe on him. They wove thorn branches into a crown and put it on his head, and they placed a reed stick in his right hand as a scepter. Then they knelt before him in mockery and taunted, "Hail, King of the Jews!" And then they spit on him and grabbed the stick and struck him on the head with it. When they were finally tired of mocking him, they took off the robe and put his own clothes on him again. Then they led him away to be crucified. Luke 22:63-65. The guards in charge of Jesus began mocking and beating him. They blindfolded him and said, "Prophesy to us, who hit you that time?" And they hurled all sorts of terrible insults at him. Okay. Tomorrow we'll read the crucifixion. All right, girls. Back to breaking free from body shame. We are on okay, so we were talking about putting into practice hope and healing and some things that we can do. And so we talked about how much media do you consume? What do you think it would look like for you to agree with your body, that your body belongs to God? And how do you willingly consent? How often do you willingly consent to conversations about yours or other people's bodies? I suggest a few quick tips for changing this pattern in your life. Number one, ask God to convict your heart. Many of us have allowed this in our lives for so long, or we may have been taught it by example from such an early age that we can't even hear it anymore. Ask God to make you feel wildly uncomfortable anytime you participate in a negative conversation about anybody's body. Number two, take the grace, leave the shame. Jesus Christ defeated sin, death, and shame on the cross. Take the grace that compels you to keep growing and leave behind any shame that constricts you. Number three, remove yourself from any environment of misnaming, especially if you find yourself in a relationship or cultures where this kind of talk is prevalent. There will be an immediate temptation to correct others. I found sometimes that the most powerful and productive correction is my lack of complicity. If women I know and love begin talking about their bodies, I don't rebuke them. Instead, without huffing or puffing, I simply walk away. I don't want to be complicit in this. If certain gatherings or friend groups always seem to advocate for, adhere to, and gather people with the same ideal body beliefs, I stop spending time in their presence. If someone I'm following on social media consistently glorifies or defames their own body, I unfollow. We have the freedom to say, This isn't safe or wise for me to consume. You'll soon see I'm not advocating for silence in the face of sin, but I would encourage all of us to know that oftentimes we can massively shift the culture around us just by not co-signing on what is being discussed. Number 4, finally, when the time feels right, speak the truth in love. One of the simplest ways I began speaking truth in love to my sisters is by saying, please don't talk about my friend like that. If someone I love critique their own body, I'd say, please don't talk about my friend like that. Often, just speaking truth and goodness over my own body is revolutionary and shifts a conversation. I have the capacity to speak with love, mercy, and grace to tell others this conversation isn't how our Father would talk about us or others. Please, let's be more cautious. I trust you'll find your voice and the best ways you can change the conversation when needed. I trust the Holy Spirit to give you the words, the compassion, and the bravery to boldly declare, I don't belong to this world. I refuse to talk about or treat anybody's body this way. That's a good word right there. That's a good word. I think I need to start a new page. Let me just make sure. Caramel Starbucks coffee with toasted marshmallow nut pods. That sounds delightful. Yes, it is, Dory. I didn't like it. It was way too strong for me. Stones in your pancreas, Lois? I didn't know that was a thing. I didn't know you could get stones in your pancreas. Does that affect your, because your pancreas is responsible for your, blood sugar and stuff, right? Or your insulin. So does that affect your blood sugar? Is it all of that? That is crazy pants. I had no idea. I learn new things every day. We'll definitely be praying for you. I would imagine that's a pretty significant surgery, isn't it? Do it, Erica. Do it, girl. My whole living room is decked out. I got all my decorations out. I got my tree up over there. This is my seating area tree. And I have some little decorations here and stuff on the wall. But over there is my big tree. And I have another one coming this week. I bought Marin a full-size tree because every time I go into her bedroom and see that little tiny puny tree in the great big empty corner of her bedroom, I'm like, why can I not cough up $70 for a basic white tree for that kid's room? So I did. I ordered one and it will be here on Wednesday. And it has pastel pretty pink and purple and blue lights. So that'll be tree 3. Plus I have 1, 2, 3, 4 mini trees. Little, 5. I have one in the kitchen too. Fa la 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 la. All right, girls, let's go ahead and pray because I gotta go work out. It's leg day. All right. God, our Father, we thank you. Thank you for bringing us together today. Thank you for meeting us here to join together in the reading of your word, to dig in and learn more about you and walk through the things that happen in the word and apply them personally to our lives, God. And as we get ready to read about the crucifixion, I just pray that you will prepare our hearts for the sacrifice, the suffering that he went through, and help us to all just glean more and more from that, God, and to remember the sacrifice that was given for each of us. God, I lift up Lois to you today as she prepares for this surgery, God, and I just ask for your healing touch for her, ask for wisdom for the doctors, for just a clean, easy surgery and a quick recovery for her as she as she goes through this process. I also pray for my friend Robin and her injury over the weekend, that you would heal her and put her back on her feet quickly. And we also pray for Susan's son Jared and his foot, that you would quickly heal that so that he can get back to work and just feeling better, and just pray for a quick recovery for him. God, as we go through this day, help us to make choices that are honoring to you with how we move our body, what we choose to eat, what we choose not to eat, and the words we use towards others. Help us to make choices that are honoring to you. In your precious and holy name, amen. All right. My kids are begging us to put up the Christmas stuff, but we always host Thanksgiving for the Greek side, so it's a lot to have Christmas everywhere. People would love it, Meredith. Who cares? The Greek people love Christmas too. Let them come and be like, oh, it's so Christmassy in here. It will fill up their spirit and give them so much joy. Do it. Do it. They said the stones are left over from when I had my... Wow. That is craziness. I just had no idea you could get stones in a pancreas. But then again, if someone were to ask me where my pancreas is, there's a solid chance that I would say, I know what it does, but where it is in the body, I mean, it could be behind my shoulder, it could be behind my colon, it could be up here under this left boob. I have no idea. Absolutely no idea where the pancreas is, but I know that I do not want stones in it. It's probably in this area somewhere between my chin and my knees. I'm going to assume it's in that area, but I honestly don't know. All right, girls, I love you so much. Go move your body, for goodness sakes. Get your exercise on. Okay? It's good for you. And if you're trying to break through a stall and you're not moving your body, coming from the word of experience of myself and you and Meredith knows. It's probably not under the left boob. You're right, Susan. It's probably not where my pancreas is. I'm pretty sure it's not. It's on my left side. Under your left boob is relatively okay. Well, so it's right about here. There's my pancreas. I found it. All right, girls. Good job, Jennifer. Good job. I went in 2 miles in the freezing cold. My nose is still numb. And I'm going to get on Amazon today and find a heated vest. That's all there is to it before I die of cold exposure in North Carolina in November. It's possible. I've heard it's happened before. All right. I love you, girls. I hope you have a